Hi, everyone. Welcome to Lakshmi's Leadership Lounge. The future of work is changing, and now more than ever is the time that we evaluate the way we lead to prepare ourselves for it. So that's why we are bringing you a series that showcases a plethora of leaders who have inspired us by redefining the way they lead. Join me, Lakshmi Pratury, on this journey as I take a deep dive into the lives of these trailblazers and their unique take on leadership. And today with us, we have Nishith Desai. He's the founder of the research and strategy driven international law firm, Nishith Desai and Associates. The acronym itself, NDA, is almost very legalese, and and the organization is ranked amongst Asia Pacific's most innovative law firms by Financial Times. And Nishith, his interest spans many things way beyond law. He's someone who thinks about the strategy, the future trends. He's a writer, he's a lecturer, he's a researcher, and most importantly, he's a constant learner. Nishith himself is regarded as the father of international tax in India and as a true pioneer in the field of international tax law. I remember when Nishith started his career, and in the Silicon Valley, India corridor when there was hardly anyone, and he really built a strong bridge between the two countries as well as India and the rest of the world. Soon after India opened its economy in 1991, that's when he really kind of pioneered the roots of asset management industry in India. He has assisted the governments of Mauritius and India in launching their offshore financial centers and much, much more. And today you'll see the pivotal role he's playing in defining the future of finance. With that, I would like to invite Nishith to join us.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Nishith, I wanted to start with defining how your law firm works, actually. So, what is the mantra on which your law firm works?
I think the basic mantra that I learned after studying over 100 professional firms around the world during 1984 to 89 was that the most important thing for an organization is organizational behavior. And I believe that's the biggest competitive advantage or competitive advantage that one can bring to the table. Because the behavior of the organization is something that really adds huge amount of value. It brings about what you call an ecosystem, which really can help you sustain for a long period of time. And only way in which you can sustain is reinventing yourself every morning.
Yeah. And I love, Nishit, you are the one who gave me this mantra that it's about doing the highest quality of work in the shortest time possible. So I always quote it as quote by Nishith Desai. So that's a great,
I think I tell you very interestingly that when I studied all these law firms, accounting firms, and many consulting firms, what I observed was our business model is so bizarre. It's based all on time. And
yeah,
therefore, if we spend more time doing your work, if we put more people on the job, okay, we are more rewarded because all time
yeah,
multiplied by people by rate, a classic model. So inefficiency is more rewarded than
right.
efficiency or effectiveness. Then it's very, very strange, and market loves that. Okay, so I have
Yeah,
general counsels, otherwise they say, what is your rate, this, that, etc. Basically what we are supposed to be asking is that, can you do my work and add value? And
yeah,
that is where I learn, and I say I have to change the model to put in a place a principle that
yeah.
you must do highest quality work in shortest possible time with least amount of people.
Correct. You should actually be rewarded if you finish it quicker, right? As
Yeah,
opposed to being
absolutely.
rewarded for doing it
There
long.
is a method in madness, which I'll tell you separately.
And also, as I also mentioned in my interview, my introduction, Your firm has always been at the forefront of trends. I've seen the number of books you put out on future trends, etc. Especially, you've been at the forefront of crypto asset and blockchain space, etc. since 2013. And I think, not I think, I know your efforts have even led to a landmark Supreme Court judgment. So tell me a little bit about what happened and in what way did you present the case to the Supreme Court?
Okay, if I may just step back for a minute and get into
Sure.
this theory of doing highest quality work in shortest possible time with least number of people, just the method in madness that uh,
Yeah.
process that we developed was anticipate, prepare, and deliver. What we thought, if you want to do highest quality work in shortest possible time, the best thing is to look to the future, what
Right.
will happen, and prepare and visualize future strategic, legal, tax, or ethical issues today, and
Okay.
visualize and try to find solutions. Okay. So, for example, the way in which we looked at was that every new technology,
Mm-hmm.
every new business model, every new social, political, economic development brings along with it a new strategic, legal, tax, or ethical issue.
Yeah.
So, and I distinctly remember the way in which we thought was the future may be uncertain, but it's not unthinkable. Many of you have already been talking about it, right? So
Yeah.
that gave me an idea that if I start doing research on the subject that are going to come in the future, then we have not only understood the technology, we have understood the trends, we have understood the business models, which could be you develop simulated business models because technology doesn't function without business models and stuff
Right.
like. So we started looking at what will the future technologies appear next 3, 5, 10, 15, 20. Sometimes we haven't gone beyond in 30 years as well. For example, future of democracy, which is my subject at heart, we looked at about 20, 30-year trend. But we start looking
Right.
at what could be possible legal tax or impediments and how do we solve them. So in the process, sometime in 2012, 13, my son Sunil Desai, he came, he's also a lawyer, by the way. He told me about Bitcoin, and I was scared. I thought, "Oh, what's this going on?" And my impression was that it's all drug and money laundering and guns and whatever it is, right? And and but you can't say no to a son, right? Generally, that happens. So I said, let me
Because
understand.
especially most of the kids know more than you do, so
Oh,
you have to
absolutely,
accept.
absolutely. It's no longer I can say MBA, which is classic money badu avde છે. You know, I don't know anything. I can't say I'm an MBA, right? So I said, let me study that. And so we've set up a group. This was way back in 12, 13, and so around that time. Then we studied the space, and I thought this is two important things. It's not only about technology, but it is a philosophy of
Right.
democratizing the currency in some sense, though it's not typically a currency, but it will be kind of. So Bitcoin is not a coin. And after all the research we did, I found that Bitcoin is not a coin. It doesn't fall under Coinage Act. It is not a currency. It is not a
Yeah.
money. It is not a foreign exchange as far as India is concerned. And therefore, what is it? So it is like loyalty points of companies, okay, or the airline and hotels, and you can exchange them for silverwares or new tickets, and everything is kind of tradable. But as you know, loyalty points are completely out of financial services sector. Okay,
Right.
never consider them, but you can buy and sell so many things, and that is why I thought this is very interesting, and RBI has no control over it. Okay, so it is the best thing to see in the world that okay, you got free currency in a way which is democratized. Okay, and that's how the theory came up that today money is controlled by the government, number one, and it can print as much as you want, okay, or it wants. Unlike pre Nixon days when he dealing gold, as we all remember from the
Yeah.
dollars. So I think now countries have no limit. Okay, and they print notes like nobody's business, right? So you can't figure out what is called true price because if you do not know the quantity that is there or it is going to come into play, then price discovery is always a problem. So based on that theory, I thought this was very important part of globalization and what you call end of sovereignty in some ways, if you will put it so. So as little rebel, we prepared all the things, and we thought it will still take 8 years by the time this thing will begin to evolve, and perhaps it evolves or not. But we did a lot of work. What happened in 2014? There was a raid by the enforcement department on some of the exchange traders, the crypto traders, and afterwards we found that they didn't understand. So I got a call even from them that Nishith bhai, ye Bitcoin kya cheez hai. So they had raided without fully understanding that, and that time it was too early. I can't blame them as well.
Right.
So from there we could sort that issue out within 2 days, okay, of the whole thing, because we understood the technology. We could explain to the but after a year or two or three maybe, what happened, somebody played a Ponzi scheme,
Mm.
and that really fleeced a lot of people, and obviously government became very cognizant of that. The job is to protect public interest, and eventually Reserve Bank of India put a ban on the Indian banks to open accounts of crypto traders. I think so. Instead of regulating, they put a ban. So all the crypto exchanges came to a standstill. Again, then we filed a writ petition, went to Supreme Court, and again, it took a couple of years. But last year, sometime in March 2020, Supreme Court delivered a judgment. Of course, it's not illegal, and the ban is too harsh a measure. It may be regulated, but not necessarily. So we succeeded in Supreme Court. But the beauty is that to explain to a Supreme Court judge, blockchain, Bitcoin, which again everybody has notion that is something fishy about the whole thing. With that the mind that starts with, then to turn that into a successful outcome was a
Yeah.
challenge, simply because we had done so much of research 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is how it helps. So we could close this case in the shortest possible time. Now we are also helping government to develop self-regulations and stuff like that. I won't go into those details.
Yeah.
Fundamental thing.
And I think what you said is true in terms of when we don't know something, we react with fear. Like
Yeah.
we just say, let's not do it at all. But I
No.
think once somebody explains it and it's understood, then we can negotiate, okay, what are the boundaries and what do we do, etc., which is what's happening right now. And you're really, really at the
Yeah, in fact, this
front
one
and
small
center.
example, typical impression is that, okay, this crypto is not traceable. You know, that was one of the questions, right? And we
Yeah.
say it is more traceable than the cash money. If you hand over bag of cash to somebody, it goes out and nobody knows what happened. Here,
Yeah.
some trail is there, and in between, couple of cases also happened where, when somebody had played a mystery for fraud and all that kind of stuff, we could get a trail of the email and immediately get him arrested, because
Right.
people can abuse this is a beautiful technology, but you can turn into an ugly flower, or what do you call, whatever you call, ugly syndrome.
Yeah.
And so you also have to take a positive view and see that the people's interests are also protected. And I always say that don't invest in this if you're not prepared to lose all your money, and if you do not understand it. So
Yeah. And also, I mean, it doesn't matter what the technology is, be it fire or knife or anything can be used for good or bad. And one of the things I want to focus on is the good side of it that is going to be really dramatic is you mentioned a little bit that crypto blockchain systems are going to redefine governance in the near future. So tell me a little bit more about that, the future of democracy. How is it going to change?
Oh, I think you touched my heart, and I think this is my most favorite subject, and what I call, how do I dismantle the parliament? Okay,
Yeah.
in lighter
No,
vein.
no, in that, I want you to tell me the aspect that will create financial equality for everyone.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
what way the governance is going to change?
I won't go into the other subject, but I'll deal with that.
Yes.
So much to
Yeah.
do, I get disjointed a little bit once in a while. Please bear with me, and uh, you know. So anyway, the way in which I look at is this. Let's take simple example. Today, India receives about $75 billion from Middle East workers to remit to their families in India.
Mm.
But if you look at exchange rate arbitrage at the Middle East level, Dubai level, if you look at Same thing in India, buy sale rate and all the kind of thing, plus exchange fluctuation and all that. Close to about 10% of the value is lost in the transit.
Yeah.
Huge. And banking system is such that it is meant for the rich. So if I want to send $1 million, you don't charge me. But if I want to send 500 rupees, 1000 rupees, 2000 rupees, then I'm paying more money than I'm transmitting the $1 million, right?
Right.
So now today what happens, about $7.5 billion, you know, are consumed or lost in transit. Look at the same amount of money can feed all the students in the schools, that amount in more than that can be done by that. So there's so much loss happening. But if you get into crypto, probably there'll be very minuscule eventually very minuscule, loss in transit. Okay, so that actually is a crypto is first of all very helpful for the marginalized people and other people. Number two, that today, why should government control money, right? And have to keep on printing the notes, and that creates a lot of um, issues around the whole economy and whatnot, because they have to react to a situation and they keep on acting, on those bases. So I believe in terms of governance, this will bring a lot of discipline. For example, Bitcoin, you cannot mine more than 21 million. So your price discovery is right. There is some limit to what you can do with that kind of, and at the same time, you are able to create a new ecosystem where it is a global currency, and therefore it is like a free passport on the currency. And that
Yeah.
is where what I feel is the governance will change, the mindset will change, and people can be more free around. At the same time, you have to put whatever regulations you put. I'm not going to detail,
Right.
but philosophically, what is money? I put it little constitutional take to that. Money is an expression of a value. Therefore, it has linkage to freedom of speech and expression.
Right.
Because I am
Right.
expressing value of something through the medium, like you have a newspaper, you express your views in that, or your social media, whatever it is. Similarly, money is also a medium to express your value, because that is why it is also a constitutional issue in some ways, that if by not allowing me to do that, you're curtailing my freedom of speech and expression.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
again,
And also it's access, right? It's accessible to everyone because of digital. Now, some people could argue that now every bank is doing everything online. So everything is going to go digital payments, everything that's happening. So we don't need bank tellers or physical banks anymore. So why is crypto any better than just digital banking, say?
I just
So
told you, the arbitrage is,
yeah. No, and
so
also I think that's why I want to bring in the point of it's the circulation of money, the printing of money, and also different governments' behavior could, tank the value of money depending on that economy. Whereas this is, one space, one limit. And, before, whether it is crypto, sorry, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum, if someone wants to invest in it, say, before they start trading in it, what should they remember? What are some of the fundamentals they should remember before they get into it?
see, it's a new technology, first of all, right?
Right.
So you always have to understand that that is fraught with high risks. Today,
Mhm.
the reward has been huge. On Ethereum has actually moved faster than Bitcoin, but maybe it has more applications. So
Right.
if you look at the investment side, currently at whatever price, when it was $10,000, people thought it was too high. People got in, become 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000. Like, now question is that if you have an ability to lose money, that is what mentally you have to be prepared for. It's a very, very high risk instrument in that sense. But you have to have belief in that. So belief system is a second thing, that some point in time this will become a very value creating system. At the same time, some will fall out, some will remain. We do not know. So, you got to build a proper portfolio about the whole thing. So to risk
Yeah.
manage like that and understand where it
Yeah.
is coming from. I believe
So
Dogecoin by Elon Musk has uh, gone, it is also zoomed. You must be aware about it. So like that, there are different applications, different things. So it is going to be a very interesting syndrome as well. But
right, right. Yeah. I think you brought a good point. It's sort of like loyalty points, right? You can use it for many. The more people that allow you to redeem your points, the better it is for you. So
yeah,
now you can buy cars, you can buy homes. I mean, it's expanding now, more
yeah.
and more things. Now, I want to focus a
I
little
tell
bit
you
on
very
you.
interestingly, when we have to explain to judges,
Yeah,
okay, what is Bitcoin or what is crypto, right? How do you technically explain them? You have to
yeah,
explain them in the context of the common parlance. So if you
right.
say when, when somebody solves a problem, you get a reward for it, right?
Yeah,
So crypto is concerned, right? In blockchain, you
yeah,
solve a problem and you get a coin, and that coin. Why should one solve the problem if he has no reward? Without
right.
Bitcoin or crypto, public blockchain will not exist.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, actually, it
right.
is going to help a lot, of course, in terms of developers, miners, blah, blah. I'm not going to that. But I'm saying that to explain all this thing in simplest possible word, because visible expert, I say, is the person who can explain most complex thing in simplest possible words.
Correct, correct. Yeah,
And that is how we have to deal with judges, because judges, you can imagine, they have so much limitation to understand, all these new technologies, and how can you do that. So our explanation is that this is like a loyalty point, and just
right.
as you can buy
Exactly.
loyalty point, you get similarly, you get a loyalty point here, like
Correct.
Monopoly game which you used to play at one point of time. It is
Yeah,
actually a replica of this Monopoly game. Your currency,
correct.
if you start mentally treating that I've got so many pounds of dollars or rupees of Monopoly game, right? And you give me X number of pounds, and I'll give you one house, or I'll get one,
Yeah,
some
train station or whatever. Yeah,
same thing.
yeah, yeah,
You have to
yeah,
explain this is like loyalty point, this is like Monopoly game, and that is,
yeah.
then there is nothing wrong. Monopoly is
Right.
not regulated by Reserve Bank. Okay, loyalty points are not. Okay, so this is similar to that. That's it. I'm sorry,
Correct.
I
Yeah.
went on long.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about the risks and rewards, and that leads to how, and we already talked about how your law firm spends more than 40% on research, etc. Tell me a little bit about your leadership style, Nishith. You have a very no rules based leadership style. So, and you have something very interesting you've done with your company. So, tell me how you manage your teams.
See, I think the way in which I always thought was that, let people fly free, okay, in a team-based environment. That is because collectively one plus one you can make two, or somebody would say 11, right? Both ways. Now, what we try to do is to see that we give enough freedom to people to think, to do things, and at the same time, there is some degree of discipline that has to be in the firm as well, because we
Mm-hmm.
all have to work together. There is one big chain and nothing can work. So there are but idea is that, whole time of command and control kind of system would soon go outdated, and already it is begin to happen, right? And
Yeah.
I believe that even the offices, every house, every employee, wherever he is, it's your office. So
Right.
new business models of managing this whole work from home or work from anywhere concept is going to be very critical. Technology is going to play a lot of role. For example, we deploy highest degree of technology for protection of a client's information and all the data and stuff like that. So you know better than I know, right? So wherever somebody is working on, no problem. But if any unauthorized copy is made, immediately there is a trigger. We will use military grade technology, okay, and like green tokens and some other ones, and so latest one. But that is where we have to invest a lot of money, because we have to handle one side is a freedom, but otherwise freedom should not be abused, And to that extent, we need some checks and balances, and that is not humanly learned, but otherwise. But so long as
Right.
people should have more freedom of speech, expression, way of doing things, a lot of things that we can do, try to work together. And that is where we are trying to balance the two things. Number two, that in an every organization, especially the innovative organization, where there's a portfolio of innovation. If it's only one single innovation driven company, it's very different. But we have a huge portfolio, whether it is blockchain to EV vehicles, to autonomous vehicles, to drones. Now we are specializing flying cars, to 3D print
Right.
protein,
Yeah.
and all those AR, VR. Now, a lot of these things are so many different areas of innovations going. Some reward immediately, some reward sometime later, some take long time. So people
Right.
come to a cultural, alignment. That's even if you are making more money, suppose in one particular area, you have to sacrifice something in favor of other people because they
Yeah.
are working for the future. So combine
Right.
people are working for the present and
Right.
combining with the people who are working for the future is
Yeah.
another art that we have to develop, but I'm sure everybody will learn over a
Yeah.
period.
No, I mean, I really want to acknowledge the open style. I mean, everything we are talking about work from home, you have done it already many years ago. So my last question to you before we move to the next section is, we only talk about successes, but in what way has failure taught you something in the past?
I think when I looked at the world, I learned one lesson. To fail is not a crime, but to
Yeah.
fail dishonestly is a crime.
Sorry, I didn't hear. To fail what?
Fail dishonestly
Dishonesty. Yeah, right, right.
is a crime. Okay, what I found in Silicon Valley and most other places is that I think a lot of failures are there, and failure is sometimes celebrated. Okay, in India, what I found that I'm not generalizing, so there are good exceptions, but particularly some of the old generation businesses and stuff like that, they adopted practices, shortcuts at times. That is where the problems have arisen today, and we
Correct.
have to learn that. So I'm not saying it's only there are also fraud, there are also wrong things done in the US, and when they do it only at a global scale, big scale.
Correct. Yeah.
In India, they do it relatively a smaller scale. So I'm not being judgmental here, what is better than others. And so,
Yeah.
but principally, that, you can fail. But if you cannot celebrate failure, cannot reward a failure person as well. Not I'm saying that you exponentially reward somebody for failure, but at the same time, motivate him to try again if the idea is good and
Correct.
something, so it constantly happens that sometimes, you see people trying out something doesn't work, then you have to give another chance, third chance. Sometimes some practices have taken about 14 or 15 years for us to develop.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And like in pharma, and medical devices connected with IoT, for example, that will be the next level. You might have heard about that, right? Or when you
Yeah.
use AR, VR for operations and surgery, remote surgery, and stuff like that. To identify those issues, by the time even technology is being developed, we have to also think of the legal, tax, liability, other issues, insurance included. So if you to do that, it is not going to reward you immediately, but the excitement quotient is very high. So I said,
Right.
let us slightly move away from only, uh, you know, IRR
Immediate answers,
to
but like really a
yeah.
long-term answers also.
So from,
Yeah. So Nishith, we now move to the section where it's you can ask me any questions you want. So
I'm
what would you?
amazed what you have done. I think in many ways, of course, with a team, but single-handedly. And as a woman entrepreneur, I admire. I distinctly remember we
Yeah.
were all in Thai retreat at Malaysia.
Yes.
And when you're
In
talking to me
2009 or something. 2009. Yeah.
something like that, I don't know. At that point of time, you're
Yeah.
talking about your vision for developing. So at that time, ink was not inked actually,
Correct.
but it was just a concept. And I was wondering how this lady is going to work out. And you're talking about, remember, we discussed ideas of doing something in Napa Valley and
Yes.
doing
Yes. Yes. We did that. Yeah.
this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I thought this lady is brave, you know.
Yeah.
And but you really did it. And I think the way in which you have developed the whole ecosystem around ink, it's not only in terms of TED-like thing, but also creating further fellowships and so many people must have benefited with your efforts. So I think it
Mhm.
is you're also an impact business, really speaking, in many ways, and
Yeah.
impact is the biggest value creator, right? I call it,
Mhm.
or we call it as ESG these days, but it's a part of that. How much
Yeah.
awareness you created, and
Mhm.
single-handedly without any big backing or otherwise, okay. And
Mhm.
small people like us have always been emotionally connected with you.
Yeah,
And
and a big support as well. Yeah.
but I think everybody is playing. TED has done its own role. It created a model.
Oh.
We all learn from them. They have done a fantastic job. Nobody can deny that. But in, the inspirational thing that you have brought in, learning from there, again, is amazing. And actually executing it, actually doing it is no easy task. I'm sure you still wake up early morning to interview people like me who are VIPs, called most very
Yeah.
insignificant people, by the way, VIP for me.
No, no, no. But what would you like to ask me? What is it about me that
Yes,
you
I
don't
want
know?
to ask you that how did you think of this idea, and how did you achieve what you have done over a period of time, and how
Mhm.
do you keep people motivated around you? That would be very nice for me to learn.
Mhm. You said something actually when we were talking, Nishith, is that, sometimes things take 10 years, 12 years. I always felt that real progress of any business can only be seen in 10-year intervals. I think, unfortunately, we are stuck in this whole financial reward system where it's quarterly results and quarterly profits, etc. But really, the progress can be seen only in 10-year intervals. And for me, I realized one thing, that to be an entrepreneur, you need a very, very strong stomach, and you have to be willing to go all out and be willing to take the chance. And I still don't know if it was the right bet, financially or impact wise, because impact can only be seen a little bit every few years. It's not like you suddenly see, wow, what I've done. But now, 10 years later, 11 years later, when we look back, the fact that I can get you on a Saturday evening when your time is very, very valuable. And to have the kind of people like you, I trust, in our ecosystem, is an achievement, and also the kind of young people who have been part of this, etc. But the point is, for me, a look at progress in every 10 years, and look at your wealth, not in terms of how much money you have in the bank, but what are the things you can do that the money would buy anyway. So I get to hang out with cool people. I get to go to, Alibag and spend time in the beautiful facility you created, which is, open to your friends. And so I get to do the things I'd love to do if I had all the money in the world, without having to make that my only focus. So that you have to just keep
One or two other things.
redefining.
I think I, I started with zero money anyway, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes time, as you said, 10 years, 15 years at times, but you must be prepared for that time. Sometimes
Yes.
it may happen faster than ever before, sometimes
Right. Yeah.
longer, but you will be prepared for that. But my
Right.
other
Yeah.
question to you is that all this, what you say, leads to one important thing, that what is the relevance of purpose in your life?
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
do you communicate purpose to the people? Because most people, do not understand the language of purpose. And so
Right.
another thing that I'm also trying to learn, and of course I'm trying to tell my people, that purpose is the most important thing in life. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
in which I define, I said
Yeah.
happiness is very important. So I
Yeah.
say our limit to growth is wherever happiness ends. I would not
Yeah.
say that.
It's true. It's
And
true.
but it's nice to have, maybe we make less money, more money otherwise. But I think today's environment, which has become economically driven and stuff, like, nothing wrong with that, I'm suggesting for a moment. But at the
Mhm.
same time, if you lose purpose, then the whole game is lost.
I
And
agree.
and how do you get people to understand the relevance of purpose? And you mentioned about ESG, and I just tell you, and then you can reply my
Yeah.
question. Is that ESG value was not understood even few years back. We just
Hmm.
did India's first SPAC transaction for a company called Renew, friend.
Hmm.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
you know, so Sia, Suman Sia, fantastic job. Couple of years ago, I think the company would have gone public, IPO, etc. Indian market could not give that much value.
Yeah.
Global markets recently it was $8 billion like enterprise value and stuff like that. But overseas the value was, now suddenly in India there is realization that ESG also has economic value. You know,
Right. Yeah.
and that is what world is beginning to understand, that just making profit, just making money is not the only way to value a company. There is something beyond, I think. So once people find purpose, I think it can create a different value for a company. Price may be different from value. Price is a function of demand
Correct.
and supply,
Yeah.
but value is a matter of perception. And I think those are kind of things I'm trying to understand. But you have done a very good job. So if you have some thoughts on how do you communicate purpose to
Hmm.
the organizational leaders and organizational members who are working, so maybe that could be helpful.
I always think that there's an underlying purpose and then the articulation of purpose. The underlying purpose always remains the same. I mean, for us, from the beginning, we said it's about accelerating journeys of game changers, because my belief is that when you want to do something new, it's a very, very tough road. And you need an ecosystem that helps you. So, how do you create that ecosystem that helps people who dare to think differently? Now, with the underlying purpose being the same, the articulation of it changes. Initially, it was doing an annual conference and featuring people there. And then it became the fellows' journey. So, how do you take part in it? Now we're saying it's really about changing the lives of corporate leaders. We go into corporations and we do huge leadership programs for them. It's how do you create future leaders who are exposed to very, very interdisciplinary thoughts. So it's that leadership focus. So I think it's always about game changers and supporting them. But first, the purpose was articulated through telling stories and teaching people how to tell stories. And second, it was articulated through focusing on a few people and making them very successful. And now it's about, corporations are the biggest economies today, right? So how do you work with them to create leadership at scale? So I think the purpose is always the same, but the articulation of it has to keep changing based on what's the need of the time, what's available and what's not
Just
available.
to share one experience, you talked about leadership,
Sure. Yeah.
and I tell you, in 2017, 2016, whole year, we did a study on leadership and the organizational model, and came to conclusion that in the future, titles will become irrelevant.
Right.
So it beginning 2017, we removed all the titles. So we know titles in the firm. Only two categories. One is leadership, leader, and members. Like Peter Drucker said, now ultimately organization is membership.
Yeah.
Voluntarily people come, they want to leave, they can leave whenever. Okay, we
Hmm.
can't stop them. But it's a membership. So it's a membership model. So people come together. Every firm member, more than employee, we like to call them members. And then
Right.
after 5 years or so, they become leaders. Now we said leader is not a title; it is a responsibility. Number one.
Right.
Number two, leader is all about competency and inspiration.
Yeah.
And leader is not, again, what is called traditionally, you all know about it, that is not management.
Right.
If
Right.
you're a manager, you tell people you do this, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership model, my action, the behavior should be such that others should emulate without my even
Correct.
telling them. You know it better than I know, right? So we removed all, in most law firm I saw 7, 8 different layers, associate, principal, associate, director. We removed all that. Within
Mm-hmm.
1 year, we grew about 30%,
Yeah.
And
No, I agree with you. I think
there are a lot of people who cannot digest this whole thing, that without a title, how do I go to market? How do I do this? It's all about what you do rather than, what you call yourself. I
correct.
think
Correct.
it
Yeah.
becomes very
I
difficult to sometimes explain to people, and for people, even if they understand, difficult to imbibe when it takes time for them. I think these
correct.
are communication has become very important, and it's not always it's easy, or sometimes you even fail,
Yeah.
and suffer, And for example, one philosophy we have followed for a long time is that we never go for headhunting.
Yeah.
Okay, we
Yeah.
don't go to coaching, right? 30 years, not a single person. People come with passion, stay with passion, and maybe if they've
Yeah.
doctored in. I actually, but I believe the way in which you have conducted yourself, I see so many young kids. When I come to your event, I feel I'm 27 years old.
Yes. You are.
I'm just around that, not too
Yeah.
old. Gray hair is
So
only
with
to increase
that,
my trees, by the way.
Nishit, unfortunately, we came to the end of the time. So I have a request for you as we wrap up. We have something called Ink Tree Seed, where we come up with an idea so we can continue the conversation afterwards. So I actually have a request for you. One of the things we wanted to create is sort of something on an NFT marketplace as a fundraiser, where we have auction people's time and art and things like that. So I really need both Cyril and your help to make this a success and get some of the artwork by Cyril that's at your back, some beautiful artwork, and also your time. And so we'll connect with you separately, but we really need your help to make this successful. So I that's the ink tree seed idea. I would like to seek
Yes, yes.
your
I
help.
think NFT, I think, is a new instrument that has come. It may be a little
Right?
bit of hype, but definitely it has opened up new vistas for monetizing the
Correct.
artist's work, the other creative people's work, which was not valued otherwise. Or of course, it was only in the elite circle. Now it is
Correct.
bringing down to a common man. So it's
Correct.
democratizing the art to the people
Correct.
as well. I think
Yeah.
this is
So
the
we'll talk more about it and then we'll have you be part of it. But at this segment, I need to wrap up to say, first of all, thank you. It's very difficult to contain conversation with you in 30 minutes because there's so much I want to ask. There's so much I want to learn. I'm sure there'll be other episodes we need to do with you. So really, thank you for your time, Nishit, for doing this and. We'll see all of you, audience, again next Monday in the evening IST, and have a great time.
Thank you very much.
And
My Corona namaskar to everybody. This is the best social distancing, no shake hands. And
yes,
please stay safe, all my audience and our audience. Thank
yes,
you so much.
absolutely.
I hope you.
Yeah. And really, really namaste. And everybody's safety, we have everyone's safety at heart. And as you listen to it, take care of yourselves. Thank
thank,
you very much.
thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.